I felt like there was really no place for people like me or in my age group. And a lot of what's out there only caters, as you said, to children. And there's a big organization that caters to young adults, which is fantastic. It's needed. But there's nothing for those of us, one, who lived with it for decades. And we have a very different experience than the younger generations. And then also for the adult onset. My sister was diagnosed about 2 years ago after I'd already lived with this for over 40 years. And I remember her going home, calling me because we're in different states and saying, what do I do with this? And she had pen needles. They just sent her home with prescriptions and no instruction. And we're hearing this all the time at our
Mhm.
gatherings.
So
So I
Grownup T1D isn't just for people who have lived with it for many decades. It's anybody an adult who's been diagnosed, even if it's just recent. Welcome to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, where our goal is to keep you informed, inspired, and a little entertained on all things diabetes. The information contained in this program is based on the experience and opinions of the Integrated Diabetes Services clinical team. Please discuss any changes to your treatment plan with your personal healthcare provider before implementing. Welcome to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast. I'm your host, Gary Scheiner. I'm owner and clinical director of Integrated Diabetes Services. Now, being an adult with type 1 diabetes can sometimes be a lonely experience, or a lonely existence, I should say. Unlike kids with type 1 and most adults with type 2, the adults with type 1, we don't get parties and camps and conferences and retreats devoted just to us. For the most part, we live with our own diabetes day in and day out, year after year, and rarely have a chance to interact with others who share our lived experience with type 1 diabetes. Well, that's about to change. I'd like to welcome the founder of a new organization called Grownup T1Ds, Kelly Dawes. Kelly, welcome. Please
thank
tell everybody
you.
a little about yourself.
Wow. I live in Southern California. I was diagnosed in 1981. So I'm about to hit my 45th year with type 1
Mhm.
diabetes. And what I noticed is, once I got active on social media, I'd always been involved in the type 1 diabetes community going way back, including advocacy. But what I was finding is that there was no support system for us, nothing for those of us aging and middle age and so on. And so that's what kind of prompted everything. But, I've always been very social, so I didn't lack friends. And, I love being active, exercise. Exercise is one of my big, big non negotiables. I feel
Mhm.
like it's helped stabilize my blood sugars over the years. And I always say it's kept me alive.
What do you like to do to stay active and in shape?
So for years, I boxed. I was a registered fighter in the 90s. This is
Mm.
way before CGMs. And even back then, trying to afford test strips for me was difficult. So I rarely tested. I was just winging it. It was different back then with insurance and coverage and so on. Yeah, boxing was, I loved it passionately. Later, at the time, I was working in dialysis. So I worked several years in dialysis and not in outpatient facilities, but for their staff assisted and acute programs, meaning someone, with renal failure on dialysis, maybe they're in ICU due to a heart attack, but they still have to have their treatments.
Mhm.
So we would bring portable equipment into the hospitals and so on.
I could see where boxing would come in handy because, if you can't afford the strips, you could just walk into the pharmacy and with your gloves on and threaten to
Uh,
punch out the pharmacist if he doesn't give you what you ask for.
if you only knew how many times I wanted to, left hook an insurance agent on the phone battling these insurance issues,
If
and
they only knew who they were messing with.
I would, oh my gosh, I'm always thinking there, it's a good thing they're on the other end of a phone, not right here. The
I
frustration.
took boxing at the Y
Oh,
for about 10 years and, did a lot of, just sparring, and it was supposed to be a non-contact type
oh,
training. It's the most incredible workout.
isn't it?
I
It's not
wouldn't have a dry spot on my shirt at the end of a session.
And it's funny, it's a little different. We did a lot of circuit training as well. So we did do strength training in addition to jump roping, shadow boxing,
Mhm.
the bags, mitts, everything. But I feel like now, because I just do strength training and cardio and stretching, obviously, but your muscles ache in places that are different than they do when you work out in a gym. And
Yeah.
it's such a great full body workout, including core and cardio. And the thing is, it's not just strengthening and toughening physically, it's mental. You have to
Mm.
think so quick.
Yeah. You gotta be on your toes constantly, even when
You're
you're
like,
just shadowing or anything you're doing. We were doing kickboxing, so it was
oh, okay.
upper and lower
Mine was
body.
straight Western style boxing. And then
Yeah.
I went on to certify as a nationally certified personal trainer with multiple certifications, including one called special population, so that I could work with seniors and people with chronic conditions, which I loved. And the
Mhm.
boxing came in handy because I worked with Parkinson's, people with Parkinson's. Later, there was a gym that came out called Rock Steady Boxing, led by specialized trainers, boxing trainers, and neurologists, because they found that boxing was a great exercise mentally and physically and for coordination for people who live with Parkinson's disease.
So through all of that, what inspired you to create a new organization devoted just to adults with type 1 diabetes?
I felt like there was really no place for people like me or in my age group. And a lot of what's out there only caters, as you said, to children. And there's a big organization that caters to young adults, which is fantastic. It's needed. But there's nothing for those of us, one, who lived with it for decades. And we have a very different experience than the younger generations. And then also for the adult onset. My sister was diagnosed about 2 years ago after I'd already lived with this for over 40 years. And I remember her going home, calling me because we're in different states and saying, what do I do with this? And she had pen needles. They just sent her home with prescriptions and no instruction. And we're hearing this all the time at our
Mhm.
gatherings.
So
So I,
Grownup T1D isn't just for people who have lived with it for many decades. It's anybody an adult who's been diagnosed, even if it's just recent.
yeah, yeah, we're a different demographic. We
Yeah,
all
what's
live this.
unique about it? How is this group different than going to a Breakthrough T1D meeting or an ADA conference? What's
Yeah.
different about Grownup T1?
What's what's different is that we're further along in adulthood. So, one, we're not children. Two, we're further along. So we're juggling jobs and families, kids, more medical procedures with age. And as we get older, more of a limited income, navigating more diagnosis, people who go through divorce. This is a big one. Women
Mhm.
speak about menopause, retiring, caring for aging parents. I feel like we face unique challenges once you hit midlife and older.
Mm.
And unfortunately, this has been an underserved population for too long, and we've needed support.
So what could somebody expect if they attend a program that Grownup T1D is holding?
If they attend, oh my gosh, it's super uplifting. It's social. Nobody's a stranger. There's no such thing as a stranger. It's so funny. One girl who was new last year, she had discovered us and she's come to everyone ever since. She said, I walked into a sports bar and saw all these people with robot parts displayed, and I knew I was in the right place. It's funny because we find that more and more as people get comfortable, they purposely display all their gadgets. They love to. And
Yeah.
so what they find is it's naturally judgment free. It's extremely social. We purposely host in non-clinical settings. So it's places like breweries, sports bars, at the park, wherever, because we're still regular people wanting to do regular things. We're not defined by diabetes. And the social aspect of it has been very beneficial.
Certainly. Years ago, I was involved with an organization called DESA. It was the Diabetes Exercise and Sports Association. And I remember the conferences and just getting together with other people with type 1, mostly type 1 diabetes, who were into sports and fitness, and just a sense of belonging. I really felt a comfort level with these people. And you meet somebody, and right away, they're like your blood sugar brothers and sisters right away.
Yeah,
It's a really special feeling being with people who are dealing with the same challenges you are.
I
It's
hear that all the
almost
time.
cathartic.
Yeah, I hear that, and then I hear people say, "It is so nice to be in a social environment that feels like a party where I do not have to explain what I'm talking about. Everyone just gets it."
Mhm. Yeah, you whip out your pump or your controller or your CGM monitor, and someone doesn't say, "Oh, what's that? Are you okay? Do you need to eat something?" Even
Right.
though your glucose is high, that's nice. Well, what would a typical conversation sound like at one of these get-togethers?
Oh, there's so many. I'll be honest, we don't have lectures and we don't do, we don't need another lecture on glucose management and eye care and things like that. So we keep it social and with no agenda. It's fun. And
Oh, that
so
is so refreshing to hear,
I
because if
know.
I have to look at one more slide, I'll go postal.
Exactly. It's like going to a party. And the thing is, in between meetups, you miss your friends. You can't wait till the next one. It feels like a party. I will say the diabetes talk happens, but it happens very organically. And
Mhm,
I think typical conversations would be things like, "What pump do you use?" A lot of tech talk and curiosity, judgment free. It's fantastic. Something that really stands out to me. And it's funny that it's happened twice now, totally separate occasions. One gal, she's a social worker. She's an adult onset. She's 25 years into it. Emailed me after a meetup about a year or two ago saying, "Kelly, can you please thank everyone for the support and the courage they gave me because I had a pending eye procedure I was terrified to do. And after talking to so many people who said it wasn't as bad as I was thinking, that they'd been through it, she said, I went moved forward and had it done, and it wasn't that bad." And she was
mm,
so thankful. And sure enough, just this last year, a gal who attended, who'd never come before, first of all, she was new. And she came and she said she was a little shy at first, but then just blended right in. People are chatty, talkative. You
mhm.
should see the videos and photos we were taking that day because she's in the middle of everything. You would think she was a host of the party and just the life of the party. She was having a blast. At one point, though, we're sitting at a table, some of us are eating, and she breaks down in tears. Same thing. She had a pending, coming up eye procedure, and she was terrified. And, we're hugging her, and I call the one gal over, the social worker, a couple more who I know and everyone. She just swarmed with encouragement and love,
Mm.
and she's gone through with her procedure. She's doing fantastic. These little things come up,
Yeah, we're having our first meeting for our Philadelphia area chapter at the end of February. Yeah, and besides, I'm hoping to make some new friends, but I also want to I want to laugh. I want to learn from my peers and colleagues. What are some of the things that diabetes lets you get away with? We've all got things that we use it for. I mean, obviously, you go to an amusement park, you might be able to get a special pass to get on rides
right. You're
sooner.
right.
I know at home as a dad, if I've got something, a special treat that I really want to eat, and my kids are like, "Dad, can I have some?" Sometimes I just have to tell them, I already bolused for this. If I don't eat it
Yeah.
all, I'll die. And they back off.
Yeah. My son does to me, he's grown, but my son will do something and it's when he visits, he doesn't live here, and I'll go, I just told you, or you were supposed to. He'll go, my blood sugar's low. And then I'll throw my shoe at him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a get out of jail free card that we can
Right.
use sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I want to learn about so I can apply it in my own life. Restaurants, sometimes you can get a CD faster. Struck up some nice conversations with TSA agents at the airport
Me too.
who I met some who have diabetes and they're wearing a CGM. It's like an identifier. You strike up a conversation, they just breeze you through the checkpoint real quick. It's nice
Yeah.
to have friends in high places, I guess.
Right.
I mean, how do you use your diabetes? You have any things you use to get
Let's
away with?
I do pre-board when I travel, but part of that also is I'm hearing impaired, and it is as a result of my longtime type
Mhm.
1 diabetes. So I wear hearing aids, and I've missed flights when they've changed gates and would announce it, and I didn't hear it. So I'm adamant about pre-boarding and the type 1 diabetes, obviously. We did do a group Disneyland type 1 event one time years ago. This was somebody else's event. And we all got to go like medically get to the front of the line. There
Uh-huh.
was a good group of us. That was nice. If I'm having a really good cocktail, like a vodka cranberry, and I feel like it needs something, I can go to the bar and say, I'm diabetic. Can I have a little bit of orange juice? I just go back and mix that in my drink, and it's fabulous.
Yeah. As a typical guy, I'm prone to saying stupid things sometimes, and I can usually explain it away, by saying, my blood sugar was just super high and I wasn't quite myself.
Yeah,
Or if there's work to be done and I just don't feel like doing it, all of a
right.
sudden, my blood sugar's running low. I'm gonna have to eat something first.
Yeah,
Maybe they forget there was work to do by the time I'm actually back to normal.
right.
Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, is brought to you by Integrated Diabetes Services, where experience meets expertise, passion meets compassion, and diabetes care is personal because we live it too. Our team of clinicians, all living with type 1 diabetes, understands the challenges firsthand. We're here to help no matter where you are in the world. From glucose management to self care strategies, the latest tech, sports and exercise, weight loss, type 1 pregnancy, and emotional well being, we've got you covered. We offer consultations in English and Spanish via phone, video chat, email, and text. Want to learn more? Visit integrateddiabetes.com or email info@integrateddiabetes.com to schedule a consultation.
You guys are going to have a great time in Philadelphia. I'm so excited about this chapter. I think you guys are going to end up being one of our bigger ones for sure.
I hope so. Now, tell me about the where. Where are chapters located now?
So right now we're new. I mean, Grownup T1Ds hasn't been around that long. So, and this whole growth thing that's happened, the outreach, the people asking from all over the United States has happened so quick. It's been hard to keep up with. So as of right now, we've got here, Southern California, and then Boston and Philadelphia. And we're talking to, it's nonstop, Phoenix, New York, Virginia, Atlanta. It's an endocrinologist who reached out from Atlanta, and he wants to get something going there. North Carolina, and a possibility with Atlanta, Alabama, Birmingham,
Okay. Wow. It is growing fast.
Seattle too.
As the sole manager of this organization, are you able to handle the growth?
I'm struggling, I'll be honest. I didn't see this coming. I didn't see this happening and blowing up so big so fast just because I felt so passionate about I want some peer support for my age group and I want something age appropriate. I didn't realize how many other people needed this I mean I did, but not at this level. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm working 7 days a week and it's free. Everything we do is volunteer based, there's no pay, but it's extremely rewarding and I've loved it. And again, it's feeding the social aspect of my personality. But yeah, I've struggled. There's a lot of things. Oh my gosh, the outreach, the amount of emails and messages, keeping up with social media, looking into the laws and what's needed for me to establish chapters in every state. So what it is I'm already a 501c3, right? We're established in California. And if somebody wants to start a chapter in their city and they've stepped up as a volunteer leader, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They don't have to file the paperwork and the fees and become a C3 as well. They'll fall under Grownup T1D's umbrella, but I have to pay those fees in that state in order to operate. The other thing is, grant. I haven't had time to grant right. Don't have time. There's so much behind the scenes,
It
marketing,
sounds
and
like you could use some volunteers.
I'm desperate for volunteers. Yes.
Well, in our show notes for today's program, we'll have your contact information
Great.
and the organization's website. But anybody who's listening who might have a little bit of time to volunteer with things like data entry, social media, grant writing, any other areas that you could use
Oh,
some help?
accounting, because it's going to become so complex once I pay these fees out of state and those chapters are established. Now, let's say there's some fundraising happening in Philadelphia and it goes into the banking, the bank account. We have a nonprofit bank account. It becomes much more complex, the
Sure.
accounting part of it. There's a ton of stuff.
Yeah. So if anyone's out there who has skills in anything,
Yeah.
reach out to Kelly. She could use a little assistance here. What's been your biggest challenge in building the organization? Is it just your own time and
Yeah.
energy or?
Yeah, I'm stretched thin, and it's all beautiful because, we're getting a huge amount of requests and people wanting this where they're at. And
Mhm.
part of me feels guilty if I can't get there soon enough because there's such a need. But yeah, it's the lack of time. It's the lack of funding. There's money involved for marketing, overhead costs, filing in other states. I'm being asked to come to conferences all over the country, and I can't afford it. I'm running this nonprofit. And if there was enough money within the nonprofit, okay, I could justify going out there representing Grownup
Mhm.
T1Ds or even exhibiting sometimes. I've been asked to exhibit. There's a lot of money involved in running a nonprofit and keeping this free for people.
Yeah.
We're not asking people, this is a free, beneficial,
That's an
event.
important distinction. There's no fees to participate in these events or to be
Mhm.
part of the organization. But anyone who does have a little bit of time and energy and expertise to contribute, that's valuable. That's extremely valuable.
It is.
When we first met and you told me that you wanted to keep the organization strictly in-person meetings, I thought, wow, everything now is virtual and online. And I thought, well, how could you not do virtual stuff? And the more I thought about it, again, the more refreshing it is to get back to in-person get-togethers with people. 'Cause it's really the best way to make connections. And
It's different. In person hits different than virtual. There's a
sure.
ton of virtual stuff out there and they're wonderful. It's just, I don't want to be, we've talked about it a little before and considered doing some in between meetups that were virtual, but just because I can't reach everybody right now, we're working on it, but we
Yeah.
can't do it right now. But it's not the same. And anyone who's attended, hundreds of people would tell you the same thing, that it's just different being in person.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think of this like this. I love the show Seinfeld, and there was this couple of shows about a holiday that George Costanza's father invented called Festivus, and he called it a Festivus for the rest of us. And
Yeah, I love
I
that.
think of this. This is like a Festivus for the rest of us. The adults with type 1. We finally have an outlet now, a place where we can feel welcome. It's like walking into Cheers, and everyone says, "Norm."
Yeah.
That's the kind of feeling we wanna generate. Everyone feels welcome and respected and appreciated, and even though it's not designed to be educational, I think there's still a ton we learn from each other just
Oh,
from
yeah,
sharing our own experiences.
absolutely. And you'd be surprised how many CDCESs, even doctors who live with type 1 have attended as type 1s. And
What's something you've learned from participating?
I've learned a whole lot. You know what? It's opened my mind to a lot. We know our own life and we're stuck in our ways. As an example, I'm a vegetarian. I have been for decades, and I'm a carb junkie. And I use a tandem pump and I exercise a lot. Therefore, I'm lucky. I'm stable, pretty stable, with the blood sugar. But I'll come across somebody who's dead set on keto and they're happy that their B1C is in the upper fours. There's a lot of different opinions. And this is one conversation in particular. I remember he and I were talking, and I'm like, wow. And he said, and I said, you know what? I'm a carb junkie. I'm a vegetarian. But it was such a wonderful conversation because one didn't judge the other or try to push their agenda on the other. We just accept each other for the way we are. And there's so much love and uplifting positivity. The other thing that has shocked me, and I didn't see this coming either, is the number of people who later tell me attending these meetups has made me want to take better care of myself. So
Hmm.
I feel like this extends beyond the clinic. This is needed. This is beneficial, and there is education involved because we
It's
do grow.
inspiring.
Yeah, it is. And not just that, like you said, learning from other people.
This is our rut. I mean, you and I, we were over 40 years with type 1.
Yeah.
It's a rut, day after day, year after year, just plodding away with constant vigilance, with carb counting and adjusting for exercise and so on.
And
It is
food, and I feel
it's a
like it's helped
plodding
open.
process.
It
It's
is.
difficult.
And
We need inspiration on a regular basis to keep us engaged and keep our interest up. I mean,
that and exposure.
technology is wonderful, but I think one of the best things about technology is it's just new and interesting. It's
Right.
something new for us to look at and use and apply. But we also need people to inspire us, and this is a great chance for that.
Yeah, and also to kind of break some of the judgment and open our minds. You and I could sit there going, "Oh my, here's another adult onset. 1 year in complaining. We've done this for how." It's not what's really I felt happened for me is to learn to kind of just see things from other perspectives and open my mind to, I've got somebody in their 60s attending who's only 2 years in, and listening to her story and putting myself in her shoes and having that empathy and compassion and seeing it from a different point of view, it's opened my mind so much to other
Yeah, I
people's
know one
experience.
question that's come up, and because I've been telling people here in Philly about this. I mean, I don't think you can't be too old to participate in these programs,
No.
but can you be too young? I mean, is there a certain age at which this probably isn't appropriate, or is it for any adult?
So we're for adults living with type 1 diabetes, whether decades in or diagnosed recently. And we do have a big focus on the midlife and older aging group, but it's open to all adults. So we do have people who are in their 20s and 30s who attend. And I mean, they tell me all the time, "Well, I feel like I've aged out of the other programs." And so, yeah, our doors are wide open and it doesn't seem to matter. We've got people in their 60s and 70s who attend who are laughing and hugging with the 20 and 30-year-olds and so familiar because we have people who attend every event. So I go anywhere from LA to San Diego, Orange County, inland. I cover all of Southern California. People are willing to drive 3 and 4 hours to attend every event.
Okay,
So
that's
yeah,
great. So what does the future hold for you personally outside of Grownup T1Ds? What are you looking to do down the road?
holy cow. I don't I don't know. This whole thing has taken over my life. Exercise will continue to be my for sure
Is
forever.
there anything you
Travel.
want to train for? Any event?
No, I've kind of backed off all that. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. My it's strong and I'm capable of doing more than most people my age, but I've learned to just, be okay with the gym 5
Mhm.
days a week, strength training, cardio, kind of
Yeah.
balance.
I mean, I've been playing more basketball now than I did when I was younger. One of my bucket list goals is to be able to go out on the court and make a foul shot when I'm 100 years old.
I love that.
So I got to keep myself in good enough shape for the next 40 years to be able to do that.
I Yeah, absolutely. We've got to, my thing is travel too. I'm just so curious about the world and I love traveling. We were in
Mm.
Thailand last year, and trekking all over, being able to keep up. I travel with my son often and he's in his 30s and he's fit. He can go, go, go. And he doesn't mind traveling with me because I can keep up and I'm fit. And, we were in Japan and there's nothing but stairs and we're climbing all these stairs. And,
Mhm.
I want to be able to keep doing those things. I want
Sure.
to live independently as long as I can.
I imagine the people who attend a Grown Up T1Ds meetup have a lot of them have considerable travel experience, and it'd be interesting to hear what their travel is like and living with diabetes when they're traveling. It's not always the easiest thing to coordinate.
No, I've done pretty well. So I personally, when I travel, if it's extended travel, like a week or more, I take almost always, I take a pump break. So I go off the pump, I go
Mm.
back to Tresiba and my in pen because it's easier to pack. I have a little more freedom and their pens are easy to carry wherever I'm at. So
Mhm.
I've always done that.
Have you seen your glucose levels suffer a lot when you do that, or is it fairly noticeable?
So I have to adjust. So what I do is I plan ahead a week before I leave. I stop the pump and I start on Tresiba and I do a conservative dose and kind of
Mhm.
build up to what I need. Sometimes I find out, like as an example in Thailand, with all the walking, my blood glucose starts to drop. And so I have to back off of the
Mhm.
Tresiba and I adjust as needed. But I always start about a week or two ahead here in the States before I leave. You know, I I'm used to going on pump breaks. I've had issues with my body having like an autoimmune inflammatory response to cannulas. So in the past, I was forced to go off pumps. I'm
Mhm.
off and on pumps. So for me, I guess it's pretty easy to do it for traveling because I'm so used to. switching therapy.
You've inspired me. I think we need to do a podcast specifically on travel with type 1 diabetes.
Yeah.
I love spending time with you. And this is what Grownup T1D meetups are all about. It's about hanging with your blood sugar brothers and sisters and just talking it up and sharing funny experiences and learning from each other. It's a good time. So
Yeah.
everyone out there listening, go to Grownup T1. You'll learn more about the organization. And certainly, if anyone is in the Philly area, we're having our first get together on February 28th at the Dave and Buster's in Plymouth meeting. And if you'd
Oh,
like to RSVP, you can do that. It's an organization that's long overdue. Clearly, it's an underserved population. Adults with type 1 have never really had an outlet like this to be able to connect and share and just have a good time. So it's well worth the effort. And certainly, if anyone is interested in volunteering to help this organization grow, there'll be contact information in our show notes about doing that. So again, thank you, Kelly, so much, not just for coming on today, but for starting something really special that's helping so many people enjoy life a lot more. And again, all of the info about Grownup T1Ds can be found in our show notes. So I'd like to remind everybody out there to keep thinking like a pancreas. I'm Gary Scheiner, and thanks for joining today.
thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. On behalf of Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, I'm Gary Scheiner, wishing you a fantastic week ahead. And don't forget to think like a pancreas.